I'm going to hand it over to Daria to do to chat a little bit more and introduce our speaker who is now on the meeting. Daria is with the Karst and Reka River Biosphere Reserve and World Heritage Site in Slovenia. I think many of you guys have probably visited there and are aware of it. But thank you for joining us and introducing this session and our speaker, Daria.
Thank you. I will try to share my screen now. Okay, is it okay? Yeah. Good afternoon from myself as well. As Leanne already introduced me, I won't spend too much words on that. I will be your facilitator for the People and Culture session of our webinar. So CaveMAB Network was established in 2018 following the initiative of Mata Atlântica Biosphere Reserve in Brazil, our Biosphere Reserve in Slovenia, and Mammoth Cave Biosphere Region in USA. Currently, it is comprised of 13 Biosphere Reserves from 11 countries and has 4 partner organizations. We invite, again, all potential new members to visit our webpage, cavemab.com, and learn more about our work so far. And as Clayton would say it, or put it, please do visit our wonderful Biosphere Reserves. So our network is meant to connect Biosphere Reserves that treasure natural and cultural phenomena related to caves. And as we all know, Biosphere Reserves are learning places for sustainable development. They are sites for testing interdisciplinary approaches to understanding and managing changes and interactions between social and ecological systems, including conflict prevention and management of biodiversity. They are places that provide local solutions to global challenges, and Biosphere Reserves involve local communities and all interested stakeholders in planning and management. They integrate 3 main functions: conservation of biodiversity and cultural diversity, economic development that is social, culturally, and environmentally sustainable, and logistics support underpinning development through research, monitoring, education, and training. Our CaveMAB network is conceived as a multidisciplinary network that addresses the social, educational, cultural, and scientific challenges of protecting the biological and cultural diversity of the unique cave and karst environments within Biosphere Reserves through events such as this, where shared experiences can increase knowledge and spark creativity. In order to consolidate and evolve our network, we wanted to know who are we, who are our members, what do we do, how do we currently approach the management of our Biosphere Reserves according to the above mentioned 3 functions of Biosphere Reserves, where are we lacking if we do, and what activities should we develop further and how in our Biosphere Reserves, as well as within the network. So these are some important issues we wanted to address within our webinar series that is dedicated to 4 topics and to the water resource management and protection strategies in Biosphere Reserves and protected areas, and organized in celebration of the 3 famous milestones: the International Year of Caves and Karst, that is organized by the International Union of Speleology to promote the understanding, exploration, and protection of caves and karst. And we are very happy that today we have with us the coordinator, Dr. George Venny, our friend. Then the Together for Caves and Biosphere Reserves campaign that is organized by our network in celebration of the mentioned International Year and the 50th anniversary of the MAP program to promote the understanding, exploration, and protection of biological and cultural diversity of caves and karst environments through sustainable actions. And last but not least, the 2022 United Nations Year of Groundwater that wants to raise awareness on groundwaters as central to the fight against poverty, to food and water security, to socio-economic development, and to the resilience of societies and economies to climate change. How does your Biosphere Reserve address the three highlighted issues in vulnerable cave and karst ecosystems? We asked the members and partner organizations to share some good examples to help us discuss the functions of biosphere reserves, especially the use of good science to support the management of our UNESCO sites. To introduce this session topic, I would like to brief you on some basic concepts and contents of UNESCO documents, lessons learned, also from a recent, very inspiring UNESCO webinar on living heritage and sustainable development, at a slice of my experience. As an ethnologist who has been working in a biosphere reserve for 16 years, I still find that managers do not have enough awareness of this dimension, even though in last years things are changing rapidly. And please, if there is a CBD or other program specialists among us or humanities professor, do not hesitate to correct my simplified explanations in chat or in another way. So if we concentrate on UNESCO, the World Heritage Sites as well as UNESCO Biosphere Reserves are two types of UNESCO Convention program areas whose management should build upon the interdependence of biological and cultural diversity conservation. Well, people are part of the biosphere, a worldwide sum of all ecosystems made of three parts: air, water, and earth. People basically depend on air, water, food, and shelter. In scientific terms, that means that we depend not only on climate, geological diversity, distribution, movement of water, soil, biodiversity, etc., but culture as well. So we try to take advantage of them all as human beings with more or less one main goal in mind: to survive. As a way of life of a particular group of people at a particular time, culture not only depends on nature, but is also the one who a lot of times happens to be at the base of its biodiversity development, maintenance, and management. The development of socio-economic systems that help communities survive in their living environment is a cultural act. This is why for almost every cultural aspect, we can find an environmental, social, as well as economic dimension. And this knowledge should be taken into account by the biosphere reserves and other protected areas managers. So let us look at the example of traditional environmental knowledge and practices as an element of intangible cultural heritage of Montseny Biosphere Reserve in Spain. The environmental dimension of this element involves, for example, sustainable practice of agriculture, livestock, and forestry based on the carrying capacity of ecosystems. Then maintenance of the landscape, which usually decreases the vulnerability against large disturbances and benefits biodiversity, etc. The social dimension, for example, involves the environmental education of younger generations, through which the traditional relationship between the community, its socio-economic system, and local landscape can be experienced. And last but not least, the economic dimension of this knowledge involves, for example, responsible use of nature resources as basis for sustainable economic development for local producers. Cultural diversity, whose recognition in today's globalized world is essential to support peace, is a historical result of our creative abilities to sustain life in various complex contexts. And our rich intangible cultural heritage is its treasured element. Traditionally, people pretty much understood that their survival is possible only within the boundaries of our biosphere and acted upon it. Then came fast yet globally unbalanced scientific and economic development, globalization, accelerated innovations, the growing of inequalities, the alarming environmental challenges, etc. And UNESCO introduced the concept of sustainable development to help us rethink our place within the biosphere. Sustainable development must be conceptualized as ways in which the communities of the world have understood and built their prosperity and how they can continue to do so in the existing socio-economic conditions, not undermining the natural resources they always depended upon. The easiest way for Biosphere Reserve managers to design successful sustainable development activities with local population, in my experience, is to draw upon their existing appropriate elements of cultural heritage or traditional cultures, as culture and heritage strengthen and connect the three pillars of sustainable development. This approach connects them even more with their land and collective identity. To use local cultural heritage for achieving the SDGs on a local level means to adjust or include what was passed down to the local population to the sustainable modern way of living, or simply to practice the sustainable aspects of their traditional culture and wisdom of their ancestors. The links between biological and cultural diversity that can help us achieve SDGs can be found in the field of language, material culture, local traditional and indigenous knowledge, technology and innovation, modes of subsistence, social and economic relations, belief systems, and values. If we take a closer look to the social and economic relations, it is clear that cultural identity, social structures, and economic relations are strongly linked not only to local biodiversity, but to the relationships communities have with the surrounding land, sea, rivers, mountains, forests, lakes, animals, and plants, and we must add caves and underground aquifers, of course. In looking for new ways to rethink our stay, not only for our survival, but also for the well-being of everyone, analysis of traditional and contemporary socioeconomic and environmental aspects of livelihood are not only basic in providing insight and understanding of the man and biosphere balance of a certain area, but can also contribute to a more directed applicative research and the design of local nature and culture-friendly solutions to potential development activities. This is a very useful, if not an essential approach for managing biosphere reserves as well. So with this in mind, we are most honored that in the People and Culture session of our webinar series, we are able to host as key speaker Dr. Eko Hariono, chairman of our partner organization, the Karst Commission of the International Geographical Union, and head of doctorate program in environmental sciences at the Gajah Mada University in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Trained in physical geography and environmental science. Since 2000, he has been involved in many research projects on karst geomorphology, hydrogeology, carbon nutrient cycle, landscape ecology, and geoparks. Supervising regulation and karst environmental management practices in China, he was also involved in the preparation of some international karst management guidelines. His presentation, Groundwater and Livelihood in Gunung Sewu Karst area, Indonesia, is part of an important new book that came out in March this year and is entitled Groundwater for Sustainable Livelihood and Equitable Growth. This unique collection of 19 studies captures experiences of groundwater making a difference in 16 countries in Africa, South America, and Asia. The book provides a rich new collection of interdisciplinary analyses that help us understand linkages between groundwater, livelihoods, and growth, and how these links can be threatened by overuse, contamination, and ignorance. So before we give the words to our esteemed guest, we ask you to please write your questions and comments in the chat section for the discussion afterwards. So Dr. Hariono, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katja. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Let me share. Okay, good evening, good morning, and Good afternoon, my colleagues and friends. It is my pleasure to share that we already published in the book that already mentioned by Dabja. For the detail, you may read directly to the book, but for this time, I just want to highlight how the livelihood is closely related with groundwater, especially in the case of our Karst area. Gunung Sewu Karst is the famous Karst area of Indonesia because if you read the old book on Karst, you may find tropical Karst storm that originally from this area, first published in 1936 by Lehman. The area, the Gunung Sewu Karst, is situated in the island arc of subduction system between India, Australia plate with the Eurasian plate, and then it is the island arcs. We have many volcanoes, but some especially in the southern part of the Java Island, we have limestone outcrops. Can you see my pointer? Can judge because I move my pointer in here to easier to understand.
Yeah.
Can you see my pointer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And this is the Gunung Sewu Karst, and we have also nearby this area is Biosphere Reserve in this area, and also there is a Karst area. But since that asked me to present the Gunung Sewu Karst, I only present the Gunung Sewu Karst area. The Gunung Sewu Karst area extended approximately 1,300 hectares. The section from west to the east is more or less like this. It is very simplified model of the stratigraphy of the area. The Karst area developed in the Miocene limestone, and underlying the limestone is volcanic rock. It is a breccia lava and fossil sandstone, and the basement is has some graben like this. Is because of fault system. Some part is have a valley of the basement that's being the control, the main control governing the flowing of groundwater system. The cross section from the north to the south, there is a volcanic river from the north sinking to the Karst area, and this volcanic river become the major river system, underground river system of the area. It is the spring discharging 8 meter cubic per second. It is the biggest spring we have in this area, and this is the hydrogeological system in this area. This one is the basin, the Wonosari basin. Mostly this area has surface water, surface river like this. but most of the river sinking to the Karst area. And this picture is depicting some sinkholes, some sinking stream, and all the stream to the basement, the graben in the basement, finally reach to the beach, the Paron Spring. It is become the major spring of the area. This area, the Karst Gunung Sewu, of course, difficult to find surface water. The water resource situation in this area, you see in here, most people now is depending on rainwater. They have a rainwater tank like this one. And also people also buy water from truck like this. It is quite expensive actually compared with the company water in our area. But since they needs water, they pay more for water is no problem. And during the 18th, but now it's not anymore. But during the 18th and 90s, people also use tolling pond like this. And now our government try to have water extraction facilities from the underground river and to supply water demand for the local people. And it is the interesting one for the livelihood. You can see from here how the population density differ in this area. Buenos Aires is the capital city of this regency. All this regency. Buenos Aires is the capital city, and Karst is in here. You see from the figure in the top left, because of difficult access to water and also the limited fertile lands, population density, most of the sub-district is lower than the other sub-district. In the right side, it is mostly in the basin, and also in this part, population density is higher, and it is the capital city, of course, the highest area, the highest population area. And they make a living. The local people is by seasonal crop farming and agroforestry and livestock raising. And now currently, after we have already assigned as a UNESCO Geopark, they made a living from tourism also. But still, some people temporarily migrate to the other area to have other economic activity. This is the main seasonal crop farming is the main life adaptation strategy. They grow multiple crop for subsistence living, like rain-fed rice, cassava, coconuts, maize, soybean, and vegetables. And the agroforestry, it is kind of saving for the long term. Mostly they plant sticks, long-term saving. This is also the livelihood adaptation strategy for this area. And the cattle rising, the livestock rising, is mostly for medium term, 1 or 2 year saving. People sell the cattle for predictable and regular expenses. For example, when they send their children to school, usually they sell the cattle they have. Mostly is cow and lamb. And migration is the other adaptation strategy for colonial Karst inhabitants with difficult access to water resource and limited land resources. Usually they move in the nearby area, in the nearby city, to have a temporary job. But they make permanent migration to the other area. And this area also, what we see in the area where people migrate to the other country, not only within Indonesian region, but also to Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, other Southeast Asian country. This is how the situation in this area, mostly this a dry area. So it is difficult, obviously, to make farming, but they make they plan especially dig like in this one up to the top of the conical karst like this. In the bottom of the close depression, usually they plant seasonal crop, and they make it's like terraces, just to trap the soil from being brought by erosion by piling stone along the slope of the karst like this one. So the idea is just trap the soil in order to grow seasonal crop during the rainy season. But some area, this is like in the right photograph, it is a thick plantation, but mostly this is a few hectares, not very large area. And this is just to show the calendar of agricultural system and agroforestry activity and also migration activity through the whole year. During the rainy season, when the water available, the people grow rice and also sometimes nuts and also soybean. So therefore maize and also cassava, and this is only during the rainy season. But for agroforestry, of course, it is big plantation of the year. During the dry season, when the water is available, they usually move or migrate to the nearest area. And it is quite interesting in this area. They make land preparation during the dry season, but the problem is now, since we are now experiencing climate change, the rainy season is not regularly as before. Sometimes what they do is they put the seed of the paddy during the dry season. When the rain starts, it is just to keep with the rainy season. When the rain starts, the paddy already grows, and the problem is sometime after the rainy season 1 week now, because it is not like before, they experience the short dry season, maybe 1 or 2 weeks without raining. So they have to, they have to put another paddy seed, and of course they lost some. They spend more money replanting the paddy, and this is the other activity that I already mentioned. It is actually underground river. Some underground river is used for tourism, especially for cave tubing. During the dry season, there are 2 caves in this area. People visiting this cave just for cave tubing for recreational purposes. It is now is getting more popular in this area. The area become a UNESCO geopark, and our government already tried to develop water supply for the local people. This is the first time when our government at the time was funded by UK government. The first people who searched for underground river is NDFs, our colleagues, our friends. We revisited this area 10 years ago to see what happens after they search for the underground river. And during the 1983 up to 86, groundwater extraction is project was started. Yes, it is, but only covering small area. And then in the 2004, groundwater extraction and water supply plant construction is continued. We have another 2 underground river was extracted in this area, and Karst University also have a project by damming the underground river, but unfortunately the dam is now broken because of cyclone, tropical cyclone we experienced in 2018. So the dam now is broken. And of course, now we are always trying to increase the pumping capacity and pipeline distribution. And this is the water consumption pattern of the area. usually people prefer to use rainwater, even though they already has a pipe water, because rainwater is to the local people, it is cleaner than the water pipe. In the rainy season, usually the water pipe is little bit what we see. Since some suspended load is still not been treated yet, the government just pump up the underground river to the tank and distribute to the local people without sufficient water treatment. That's why the water pipe in the rainy season is sometimes still contain suspended load. And tanker water it is also the nearest spring is also still used by the people. Pound water, and pipe water. But it is not for the area, always some part of the area. And this is how much water people use for year around. Pipe water is around 8.5 meter cubic, and tank water is about 5, and water mainly is 1.5 meter cubic. And this is to give an idea how expenses of the people. This is water, yes, still very. It is actually higher than the other area of to spend money for water because of the difficult access to groundwater. And this is after the development of water supply. It is just it actually needs more further study, but at least during the area, what we see is the people, the few people presented is getting lower, and also some, especially after the geopark, the area become the geopark. Some people who previously migrate to the area come to the area, and now the is a bit higher. Formerly, the growth in this area is minus because not from the birth rate, but because some people, especially young people, move to the other area. And it is just for the concluding remarks. The livelihood of people in Karst is governed by the qualitative survey regarding the perception of the welfare among the people view the economic situation is much better to do in the water supply. I think that's all the brief information that I would like to share for the detail. Of course, you may read yourself in this book. Thank you very much, Darja.
Thank you, Dr. Haryono. It was a very nice presentation, very interesting. While we are waiting for some questions from the public, maybe as you were explaining at the end that because the area was declared a UNESCO geopark, it somehow helped local people not to be so poor anymore. How do you see this, how do you say, possible benefits that also scientific work can have for a development of such an area? How do you implement? I mean, now that this is a geopark, I think it's easier. What is your comment?
Yes, for the geopark, the area now become the touristic area, and you know that in our province we have five provinces or five regencies. The Gunung Sewu, the Karst area, formerly it is the purest regency, but now it is higher than. It is not the purest one, but now in the fourth, what we say, it's not, what I'm saying is not, it is not the purest regency anymore. And of course, we are, as a scientist, try to give more information about the impact of the tourism. Sometimes local government, also people make advantage by more people coming to the area without enough environmental consideration. It is I also try to communicate with the to study the carrying capacity of the cave, and also tell to the government that they should consider also the carrying capacity. And I think this that I already done in this area. Maybe we have in here my author actually. Maybe if you want to say something to Eka.
Thank you for the opportunity, Professor Eko, and hello everyone. I'm one of collaborator for the article that Professor Eko have written. And yes, there's a lot of going on in Gunung Sewu Karst area, particularly from the tourism point of view. There are also the opening of new infrastructure in that area, the very massive. We call it Lintas Selatan, Jalur Lintas Selatan, or the southern part road in Gunung Sewu Karst area, and it has created many, kind of like conflicts between people and the environment. And I'm sure that there's also some studies also regarding that, but we believe that we need more studies regarding carrying capacity of the Karst itself, and also the underground cave that support people and livelihood of the community. And I also want to pinpoint about how people with its culture also adapt to the changing situation in Gunung Kidul. They has developed resilience towards kind of like the changes in tourism, changes in climate change, and etc. by developing their cultures to adapt with it. For example, in terms of developing to climate change, they adapt by consuming local food, consuming local vegetables, and etc. And also for adapting for the tourism, they develop cultural-based tourism that they, doing some festivals and also some customized event in their area. And I think there's their way to adapt and also to make a very sustainable future for their livelihood also. Thank you, Professor Eko. I think that's all my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eka. It was wonderful. We have another question from Ian Edison. The image showed intensive land use. How is the turbidity soil particles in the groundwater?
Yes, for sure. The turbidity in the groundwater, not only the groundwater, but also the pipe water during the rainy season is yes, not good. Yes, the suspended load is quite high. I mean, and that's why during the rainy season, local people even they have a pipe water, but they don't use the pipe water. Instead, they use rainwater.
Wonderful. It's like my grandma. She prefers rainwater.
Yeah.
Does someone from the public have a question, maybe face to face? So if not, maybe I would have a question for you all. Do you think that maybe as a network, we can have some common activity that would be inspired by what it's done in Indonesia, in the Gunung Sewu Karst?
Well, I was going to say one thing that came to mind in respect to your question, Daria, that I've, kind of tying both our, what we've, this is all, with, hydrology or, cave and karst water based or around water resources. And one thing that we chatted about in a prior workshop is this traditional knowledge and the ways that these traditional practices are evolving due to climate change. And I think this was an idea that you had with really kind of collecting these examples from across the world in that cultural heritage, like a database. I see this in like how the Mayans and then up through history in Mexico. And then we're seeing this in, modern, times as well, of still these traditional agricultural practices, and they are evolving to address that too. And I think that's an interesting way to look at as the climate changes, how can we learn from people that are living in warmer, wetter areas, or, drier, colder, these types of things where maybe there is something to help, to assist, as perhaps, wherever I'm living becomes more like Indonesia or becomes more, whatever it is, increased rain or whatnot. Maybe there are applications, things that we can share in that way and disseminate, through this network to local peoples in some way, or through our network, and then people can use that in their protected areas and biosphere reserves. You've got a lot of great examples of how they did, modified the sink points and ponds in Slovenia. The same thing with the cenotes. I just see this common thread around water and people living on the landscape. And I think there might, with this traditional knowledge, there's a lot to share amongst ourselves in today's, in the modern times as well.
Yeah, thank you, Leanne. It was exactly what I was thinking when hearing Professor Haryono's presentation. It was like how crazy it would be to let these people meet, from the karst area here in Europe with somebody from a karst area in Indonesia, and I mean, and let them talk about how they live here and there, practically on the same kind of undersurface, or how do you call it, you know? So maybe some kind of cultural exchange, or how could we call it? It would be very nice. What do you think, Dr. Haryono?
Yes, yes. I think I do agree with your suggestion. For starting your idea, I think you may come also to Indonesia, because in 2002 to 2024 we plan to have a conference. Also, it is a transdisciplinary ASEAN Transdisciplinary Cast Conference. It is maybe we can start to see how the climate do what we say change people in specific area. Even if we have a rainy season, like in Gunung Sewu, normally they experience dry season, but since we have 1 year in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, we have a rainy season all over the year, but people still at the time not give benefit to the people, because what the habit is after the rainy season, they harvest the cassava and dry the cassava during the dry season. But since it is the rainy season, people cannot dry the cassava, and for them, even it is rainy season, is still they got difficulty to cope with this climate change. I think yes, good. I do agree with your idea, and how to make together. It is what we need to think. Thank you, Tatsa.
Thank you. Is there some other comment or maybe question from the audience? If not, then maybe we should just say our goodbyes. I have to thank you very much, all the participants that applied for this session, and for your presence. And I have to say also, from my personal point of view, a big thank you to the Western Kentucky University that enabled us technically to carry out, and still will be doing it, this webinar. And of course, thank you, Dr. Haryono, for your wonderful presentation. I was really glad to be able to host you during this session. And yeah, maybe for my last remark, as my grandfather always said, you know, when dealing with water in karst or on karst, I don't know how you say it, it's always good for all of us to be a little bit stingy. So thank you, and all the best.
Welcome.